everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Rachel, this is Let Me in the Library, and today I'm going to be doing the Finally Fall book tag. So I was tagged to do this by Mel from Melly Reads. I would definitely recommend that you check out her channel. We are already well into this autumnal season, but I am here to bring you a couple more books to put on your radar as we talk about some of these prompts. The first prompt for this says, in fall the air is crisp and clear, name a book with a vivid setting. So I would have to go with The Down Days by Ilse Hugo. This was a book that I buddy read with Alina from Alina the Great. This was such a cool book. Unfortunately, the ending kind of veered off in a direction that I wasn't quite happy with. Otherwise, this would have been a 5-star read. But I was immediately taken in with exactly how wonderful this kind of world building was. I was so captivated and I quickly felt so transported by the writing. And this takes place in a kind of pandemic setting, so very relatable at the moment, but this is sort of at a point where this has been going on for several years, and in this community, all of these people are always wearing masks. It's not even a question anymore. Maybe we could take a hint. They are dealing with a couple of different issues on their own, all these separate different individuals with their own issues and problems that are somewhat coming together and converging onto this path in which they all must meet and make certain decisions in this very strange kind of a world. I just thought that the storytelling was so great in the fact that I could read a single paragraph and I immediately got so much more information about the story. So I definitely recommend that for the kind of vivid setting. Again, the ending was a little bit off for me. I was very confused about where that was going, but it was so transportative that I can't not recommend it. The second prompt is, nature is beautiful, but also dying. So name a book that is beautifully written, but deals with a heavy topic like loss or grief. So I am going with The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. This was a book that I read as part of a book club that Angela from Literature Science Alliance invited me to participate in. The Nickel Boys follows this story of this boy named Elwood. He is a young black man, and this follows his journey as he kind of does everything right on his path to go to college, and he is, kind of a goody two-shoes, and he really studies hard. But his first day that he wants to go to class, he hitches a ride with somebody, and they happen to be driving a stolen vehicle. So when they get caught, Elwood is sent to Nickel Academy, which is not exactly a school for boys. It is more like a torturous place. This is fiction, but it is based on a real place that basically behaved in the exact same way. So this was a very interesting kind of a literary fiction dive for me, and I thought it was really fantastic, but it is very hard because you're learning about all of these different events that happened at this school, and you're realizing that this really is something that happened to somebody in real life. I found that the writing felt very similar to the sort of books that I have read in school and really enjoyed. So I definitely can see this as something that will be assigned for future school curricula. I found it very heart-wrenching when you're hearing about all of these different boys who are in the school and how this terrible kind of segregation that continues to perpetuate this feeling of separateness for all of these different classes, and the kind of horrible mistreatment that these boys go through. And it was really hard to read, but I found it still very impactful, and especially by the ending, it had this very shocking kind of ending that I felt was very well paid off. So I would also recommend that you check that book out. The third prompt is, fall is back to school season, share a nonfiction book that taught you something new. So we're sticking with that more of a serious tone, and I'm going to talk about The Rape of Nanking. This was a book that I read as part of the Poppy War read-along. This was the suggested optional nonfiction read to help get better context for the Poppy War. I think a lot of people already kind of know about the Poppy War, but this has a lot of cultural context. So I knew, even though I am part Chinese, that there is a lot of that stuff I don't know. So I wanted to study a little bit more of that, and I felt that it was important to bear witness to these events that happened, and also to use that to give much better context to really appreciate the kind of art that R.F. Kuang has created for us in the Poppy War. The next prompt is, in order to keep warm, it's good to spend time with the people that we love. Name a fictional family or household or friend group that you'd like to be a part of. That has to be Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. I read this a little while ago with Darian from Darian Reads and Sasha from The Redhead Reader, and this was such a fun book. I immediately fell in love with the characters. I thought that Francis was so deeply relatable as the kind of like nerdy nerd that also needs to keep up this kind of reputation as a smart person, and that's exactly how I felt a lot of the time, nerding out about everything. And for a long time it always felt like you had to really focus on your studies, but I really appreciated that Frances and her mother were very open and honest with each other, and for these kinds of interests that Frances was really interesting in pursuing, her mother was so supportive. And then when she meets Alid, who also shares a lot of these interests, their friendship just takes off, and it's such a beautiful thing to see that there are these two people who just become friends. There is no romantic subtext at all. It is just purely a story about friendship and that they are able to help each other when they need it most. Unfortunately, Alid doesn't have as nice of a welcoming family, and sometimes he needs to be reminded of the world outside of that family, so I really loved that Frances was there for him, and they kind of expanded that friend group a little bit wider with some of their other people in the story, some of the other characters, and it was just so beautiful, so I would love to meet those people and become friends with them. The next prompt is, the colorful leaves are piling up on the ground, shows a pile of fall-colored spines. The next up is, fall is the perfect time for some storytelling by the fireside. Share a book wherein someone is telling a story. I am actually going to go with the first story in Exhalation, which is called The Merchant and Alchemist's Gate, if I'm not mistaken. This first story kind of follows this Arabian Nights structure and atmosphere in which there is a person at a marketplace who is investigating this kind of strange thing which seems to allow people to travel through time 20 years in either direction, and the merchant there is explaining the way that this works through all of these different stories of different people who have used this portal before, and it's so cool to hear about each of them and how a lot of them have their own stories that continue on, and it eventually leads to this person using that portal in a way. And it's so cool to like get all of that context from another story where you really do care about those characters and you hope for the best for them. So that was such a great example of using that structure of storytelling. I really appreciated that. The next prompt is, the nights are getting darker. So name a dark, creepy read. And I'm gonna go with Six Wakes by Mur Lafferty. I read this 2 months ago, I think. In this, there is this new kind of futuristic technology that is now completely taken for granted, in which people can clone themselves, and it's not even that difficult to do. A lot of people clone themselves because they start to get sick and they have a poor quality of life, so they would rather clone themselves and live that way, and they retain the memory that they had before. So these 6 people go on this journey in a spaceship to go somewhere, and they have this cloning device they can use to clone themselves. But one day they wake up and they see all of their old clones dead on the ground. Now, each of them has been cloned before many times, but their cloning machine is now broken, and so now it is kind of a mystery of who was doing this, who would attack all of them like this, and why, and how did they get through this. And the problem is that they don't have their memories from their previous clones, so they're missing a lot of this context and information for how they all got along with each other, because they just don't know. Something has gone wrong with that technology. So they are trying to solve this. It's a cool murder mystery in space. It's just a lot of fun. So it was definitely dark and creepy, and it used a lot of these interesting sci-fi concepts that made the story just even better and better and better. It just elevated it all to a new level. So really awesome read for that. Days are getting colder. Name a short, heartwarming read that could warm up someone's cold, rainy day. And I would have to go with My Love Story, which is such a cute manga. I love it so much. It follows this guy, Takeo, who is like this very big, gruff looking, very athletic, but he just doesn't really look like your typical anime protagonist, beautiful love interest kind of guy. He is the definition of a gentle giant. He is just so kind-hearted and lovely and wonderful, and one day he falls for this girl, and it just so happens that she falls for him back, and it's so bizarre to him that somebody would fall in love with him. That girl just thinks that Takeo is the coolest person, he is the most amazing person, and it's just purely wholeheartedly wholesomeness all the way through. It is so cute, and I really, really love it. Every time that I pick up a volume of that, it just completely brightens up my day. The next prompt is, fall returns every year. Name an old favorite that you want to return to. So I would have to go with The Slippery Slope. This is the 10th book in a series of unfortunate events. I'm actually buddy reading this right now with Aline from Pygmy Puff Reads, and this was my favorite volume of the series when I first read the books, and I've read it again and again several times. So it's been a while since I have previously read it before, so reading it now, it starts with like the same action that the previous book left off on, and it just throws you right in the middle of it. And then there is a lot of this kind of like survival aspect because our dear siblings have been separated for the first time in this very desperate kind of way. I think it really ramps up the action, and also a lot of this, you know, internal turmoil and struggle that these kids have as they're trying to discover the truth about what happened to their parents and what's really going on with the secret organization of VFD. And of course, Count Olaf, who is kind of still at large, and it seems like he is so good at evading adults' attention that it may just be up to these kids to finally put a stop to him. The last prompt is, fall is a perfect time for cozy reading nights. Share your favorite cozy reading accessories. I like blankets, I like sweatshirts, I like warm fuzzy socks, and I just like to be cozy and have some hot chocolate and probably join some reading sprints while I'm at it and just have a good time. So that is it for the Finally Fall book tag. It is finally fall. Hey, I'm a genius and I forgot to tag people. So I'm here, Rachel from the future, quickly going to tag some people before I bring you back around to the original video. So I'm going to tag Manda from Ginger Snap Reads, Elise from the Petite Punk, Ansu from Read with Ansu, and Nitty from Nitty Ready Reads. So please do this tag if you see this video, unless you don't wanna, in which case, okay, back to past Rachel. Thank you so much for joining me. I am so happy to see you here, and if you have any other awesome autumnal recommendations that you would like for me to check out, I would always love to hear about that kind of stuff from you. So please do let me know about any of that stuff. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe if you have not already. I would really appreciate that. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Rachel, this is Let Me in the Library, and I'll see you next time. United Airlines, can you chill for 1 second?